Hello. Oh my goodness, I'm out of breath doing that. Why? Am I so out of shape I'm out of breath picking up a basket of palettes? Maybe. Hello my friends, and thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you are doing well and having an amazing day. I am kind of excited about this video. Back in, was it September or August sometime, I uploaded a video where I curated my palettes for fall. And I did that mainly because I was expecting to move almost all my makeup into storage aside from a small bin of things or whatever, and that kind of didn't happen. I'm delayed in moving out, which if you want to know the whole saga, I can comment below. Anyway, long story short, I haven't needed to move my makeup to storage just yet, but once I move, that's another story. But I kind of wanted to continue on with the theme of pulling palettes that I wanted to play with for this season, and I did a live chat a couple of weeks ago where I had you guys help me decide what palettes to keep out for the winter months and which ones to put into storage. So I have quite the basket full of palettes here. I think I went a little overboard. I told myself whatever could fit in here was okay to keep out. I'm kind of regretting that because I only have 2 eyelids and one face for makeup every day, and yeah, there's a lot here. So if you want to watch and you want to see what palettes I'm going to be trying to play with this winter, then stay tuned. And if you're new here and this is your first rodeo with me, thank you so much for clicking on the video and deciding to hang out with me. My name is Emilyse, but everyone calls me Em, and you're watching Makeup Break. I hope that if you want to come back and hang out again, you'll click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so we can be friends. I love that so much. Anyway, let's get into it. Oh my gosh, there's so much here. There's so much here. I'm kind of thinking I might have to put some back into storage. You'll have to let me know which ones should absolutely make the cut, which ones I should put away, because it might be a little overwhelming. So where do I start? I have no idea, but let me just show you what I've got here. Holy smokes, this is heavy. Whew. Okay, I will also preface by saying I do not buy a lot of new makeup, partially because I have a pretty large collection and I feel kind of guilty buying new makeup. I do have a few new things that I got through an event I attended recently, but that being said, a lot of these palettes are older, were limited edition, and or discontinued. Do with that as you may, but I hope I encourage you to use the makeup that you have in your collection and don't feel pressured to buy every new palette just because you see a new releases video that makes you want to buy something. You might be quite surprised by the beautiful shadows you already have in your collection. Okay, let's get into it. First thing here, just off the top, this is the Pinky Rose Exotic Peacock palette. This one is stunning, and the reason I pulled this is because it is so colorful and bright, and I have not used this in a really long time, and I feel really inspired to play with a lot of these purples and blues for the winter months. I could even kind of use this going into the spring months, so late February, early March. So this is one of those palettes that I feel is good for winter and spring, and I just feel inspired to play with it, so I pulled this out. Next up is this oldie but a goodie, the Modern Renaissance palette from ABH. This kind of put ABH on the map for eyeshadows because everybody and their mother was talking about this palette, and the reason I pulled this is because of the berry tones. I feel like berry tones are perfect for the winter months, and going into February I could see a lot of Valentine's Day looks coming from this, and I haven't played with it in a while and I want to give it some love before it kind of becomes a palette I can't use anymore. I mean, yes, it is old, but it's still good. This palette is not new to the curation. I had this in the fall collection that I wanted to use, and I'm pushing it forward to winter as well because I didn't get a chance to use it, unfortunately. Maybe that's a sign I should declutter it, but look at these beautiful tones. You can't tell me there aren't colors here that would look stunning this winter. Lilacs, some blues, some light blues, berry pink colors. It's just a nice array of kind of soft muted colors, but also some depth there as well with some of those navies. I feel like that has winter screaming from it more so than fall, so I'm hoping to get some more use out of that this winter. Next is a brand new palette to my collection. I got this at the Creators and Friends event. It was PR gifted. The Nomad Cosmetics Polar Express palette. I have a short up kind of highlighting the experience at Creators and Friends, and I have swatches of this at the end of that short, so be sure to go check it out. But here's that palette. It is stunning. I haven't used it yet, but I did post a poll on my YouTube community page asking if I should do a color story on that or the other palette I was gifted from the Creators and Friends event. So far, Polar Express is winning. So I'll do a color story challenge on that. And if you're wondering, what is a color story challenge video? Well, it's where I attempt to use every single eyeshadow throughout the video. I do 5 or 7 makeup looks with the larger palette and show you the versatility of the palette and create fun looks using, again, every single eyeshadow in the palette. I call it a challenge because sometimes palettes are not that cohesive, or you just struggle to figure out how to use certain colors that you may not want to use or not sure how to use them. So given the popularity of this palette, I think that might be the next one I do. Another blue toned palette that I did do a color story challenge video on. If you're interested, you can check it out. Sadly, this is not sold anymore, but it's such a beautiful palette and I want to play with it this winter. It is the BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin. Oh, I love this palette so much. And Yella Canikvis is the one who sold me on this, of course, because she raved about it. And then after I got it myself and I started playing around with it and realizing what beautiful colors there are in this palette, that it's not just a blue tone palette, that it has some beautiful neutrals in here as well. Sorry for the holographic packaging reflecting in your eyes. This is actually quite neutral. Some of my favorite makeup looks that I've created have come from this palette. These two tones here are at the bottom. Those two together actually look beautiful, and I created this 60s mod look with it, and that was one of my favorite makeup looks ever. So I'm excited to be playing with this winter as well. Next is this Ofra Black Friday palette. The name, does that tell you that it's a fall palette right there? If not, then maybe this does. So it's gray tones, and that's about it. Although there is some warm tones here, it's not just strictly black and grays. I haven't really given this palette a lot of love, and it's been kind of one of those palettes that I'm not sure I want to keep. It's kind of on the chopping block at this point if I should declutter it, and I figure if I don't use it this winter at all, even though it's in my little curation list, then it's time to say goodbye. But it's a fun palette. Not my favorite colors to wear, but grays are nice. I do like grays for the winter. Okay, this palette is so pretty. This is from Gourmand Girls. It is called Secret Grove. This is also new to my collection. I received this as a gift from attending the Creators and Friends event. And this is the other palette that was up for the Color Story Challenge poll on my channel. This does not scream winter to me, but because it is new, I do want to play with it. This one definitely screams spring, so I'll probably be keeping this out to play with until at least spring, summer. We'll see if I rotate it out. I'm really excited to be playing with Gourmand Girls because I haven't tried their brand before and I've heard so many great things about it. I had to have one of my Natasha Denona palettes out, and I pulled the gold palette. I put the Metropolis away in lieu of having the gold palette out. This is discontinued sadly, and the new gold palette that Natasha Denona released is nothing compared to this, because this one at least has some kind of brighter tones here with, I don't know if you can see, but this one is like a duochrome, like this sparkling green emerald shade, and then this kind of golden green toned one here. They're beautiful. And then there's a rich like teal inky shade and some other rich golden brown tones, which are kind of standard. Like if you look at just those 9 right there, it's kind of a basic neutral, but this little 6-pan section here is what makes this special in my opinion. I have not given this palette a lot of love, and I definitely need to do so. So I pulled that out for this winter. Cross my fingers. I mean, looking at how much stuff I have here, I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Next is the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette. I mean, gingerbread. Who are we kidding? This is Christmas in a palette, but with pinks, which I don't necessarily associate with winter or Christmas, but I like that it's something unexpected. I love this section here of all these brown shimmering neutral tones. I'm basic that way, but there's some plummy tones and there's some other really beautiful berry tones that I again love for the winter months. And you know, it's gingerbread, so. I have this teeny tiny little Rare Beauty palette. This was from their very early releases. I did a swatch video in a short format if you're interested in seeing that. And I also did a full long form video on this palette, I believe a couple years ago. It's not a complete color story. It's kind of weird. It's like they took random colors and kind of threw them together in a palette. And this is called the Magnetic Spirit, by the way. I love the purple tones in this palette, and I think that this would be kind of fun to pull back out into rotation and try to play with it a little bit more. Even if I only use one eyeshadow from that palette and kind of pair it off with some of these other palettes with some mattes and neutral tones to kind of make a full eyeshadow look, that's totally fine. I just want to get some use out of that palette. This one's an oldie but a goodie, and I created the most pretty like icy snow queen makeup look using this Maybelline Icy Glow palette. This is definitely not made anymore, but it was a fun collection of like these 3 quint palettes. Is that what you call them? Yeah, some of these are kind of basic and blah. Like, I would never just wear these two palettes on their own because it's lacking depth. But I like it for like applying highlighter and shimmering eyeshadow to the inner corners. And these pair really well with other palettes. So I consider this to be more of like a companion palette. And it's been a long time since I've used this. And I feel like this screams winter because of the blues and the icy tones in it. And of course, it's called Icy Glow. Winter, ice, yeah, right? As I'm going through this, I'm starting to feel quite ridiculous in all the number of palettes I have. So you'll have to let me know. This is the palette I'm wearing today. The day I'm filming is Saturday. So I did a YouTube live today. And the makeup look I did was using this Profusion Just Nice palette. It's seasonal, limited edition. It's got grungy greens, it's got berry tones, and I'm using these two shadows, this one and this one on my lid. And then I also have this cream shadow on as well. You can kind of see it, sort of. This is just a fun palette. It's a holiday palette in of itself, so I pulled it because of that. Plus, I love that grungy olive tones in there, and I think it'll be kind of fun to play with this winter. Here's another Profusion limited edition holiday palette. This is called the Wish List. Oh, I should have used this today. I forgot that this has the blush and the highlighter section. Hello. Icy Blues. Does that not scream winter to you? Because it does to me. I've used it a handful of times, and the looks that I did get with it are really pretty. It's got a lot of gray tones, and then it's got some warmth here with this copper tone. So I think that would be fun to play with this winter as well. Speaking of blues, I feel like this is just going to be the blue winter. I have this really old NYX palette, and it's called Love in Paris. Love Affair with Louis. It's this blue and teal palette. I feel like this could also work for summer, but I'm just really leaning into those blues for the winter months. I have not used this in a hot minute. I feel like if I don't use it at all this winter, then I need to declutter it. So I think this is an ultimate test. Next up is the Huda Beauty Amethyst Obsessions. And if you don't know anything about me, amethyst is my favorite gemstone. It's also my birthstone as I was a February baby. And purple is my favorite color. So it's like all my favorites wrapped up into this beautiful 9-pan palette. I have not used this enough. I don't even think I've used this shadow, to be honest. Oh my gosh. I'm really looking forward to playing with it though. Another cute wintry themed palette is this Dominique Cosmetics. I think this was called Sweater Weather. I have no idea. It's a soft pastel palette almost. Like all of these tones here are very light, and then you got this deep tone on the end, which is like a deep plummy brown, and then kind of a medium tone purple. It's not my favorite palette, but the looks I created with it are nice enough, and I want to get some use out of this just because it's wintry and the tones kind of fit the mood I'm going for. Another palette that I pulled that I kind of feel like I need to give some love to is this Wet n Wild Color Icon Lights Off palette. What is this, a 10-pan? And it's kind of in neutrals with a twist. Nothing too special, but I haven't played with this in a while, and I feel like with some of these deeper tones, it kind of gives sultry vibes, like the ABH Sultry palette gives those vibes, but with emerald green tossed in and some mid-tone shades. I haven't given this much love at all. In fact, I see that there's a few eyeshadows in here that haven't even been swatched, let alone played with on the eyes, so I need to give this some love. And besides, some of the Wet n Wild shadows are excellent. When I was doing my curation, I was also thinking about Valentine's Day, because Valentine's Day is a winter holiday, even though we always think of Christmas and Thanksgiving as being winter holidays. But February is also winter. Okay, don't forget about us February gals who are winter babies too. With that being said, I have this Shayna B Miami Nights palette, which I think of as being kind of like a Valentine's Day palette. I used this in a Valentine's Day look, I believe. I'll link that below if you're interested. It has this deep red. It's not like a bright fire engine red. It's more of like a almost crimson, I would say. And then a shimmering crimson with that, and then a gray. I love red and gray together. It's such an unassuming combination. You always think of red and gold, but I like red and silver and red and gray together. I think it's really pretty. And then this is my favorite eyeshadow in this whole palette. This little light pink, like a champagne pink, but it's got this little pop of prettiness that I really like in that shimmer format. But I'm going to give this some more love this winter, probably more so in February because it kind of fits in with that. Another palette I have here is Formula Z, and this is the So Pretty palette. This one screams like New Year's glam to me. It is a simple neutral tone palette, but you can see how much shifty shine it has. There's two glitters in here, which, you know, is not my favorite, but this glitter format is not bad. It's not your typical cream glitter that kind of pills and gets gross on the eyes. This one actually does wear nicely. And I like that tone with some of these deeper, like this deep brown in the crease with maybe the champagne on the lid or even the copper on the lid with just a hint of the sparkle. It's so pretty. So I'm excited to play with that as well. An oldie, but a goodie. The Huda Beauty Textured Palette in Rose Gold. I used this the other day and oh my gosh, I forget how nice this palette is. It's got berry tones. Obviously it's rose gold toned with all of the shimmers up on top. All of these mattes here are so lovely and beautiful. I just have not given this palette much love at all. I've swatched it, I see, but I don't really see a lot of brush dents, you know? You can usually tell if you swatched it versus just use your brush in it. So I need to give this more love. I've definitely used a lot of the shimmers, but not the mattes, and I'm really excited to play with this more this winter. Cross your fingers for me that I get to it. Oh my gosh, what am I thinking? Okay, I have this little baby palette from Maybelline. It's the City Mini palette in Concrete Runway. You can tell I have a theme here. A lot of blues and a lot of grays this season. This is one of those palettes that has not gotten a lot of love for me, and it's one that I've kind of putting on the chopping block of maybe I should declutter it, because I don't even think this is made anymore, to be honest. But it has a beautiful purple, and of course I love bright shimmering blues like this. They're like, oh, they draw me in. Hold me to the fire on these, guys. Hold me to the fire on these, because I definitely need to get some love and use out of these, because I can't justify buying new palettes if I'm not using them. Another palette that screams Valentine's Day to me is this NYX Love Bomb. No, excuse me. Wrong word. Sex Bomb Femme Fatale palette. Why does this scream Valentine's? Red and silver in these neutral tones. I've done a Valentine's Day makeup look. That remains my favorite makeup look I've ever created with this. This is a fun palette. I need to use it more. Needs love. Next up is my Ricky Ricardo's Club Babaloo. I love this palette from Besame Cosmetics. This is the collab that Besame did with the Lucille Ball estate, and these are the actual colors that she used on her eyes from the 50s and 60s. So in the I Love Lucy show, which you can't tell because it was shot in black and white, of course. The Lucy show, which was shot in the 60s, which is in color, so you'll see a lot of like the lighter blues and things like that from her makeup preferences of those days. But they worked with her estate to color match the actual shades that she used, and this palette is beautiful. It's very unassuming. It's a little bit more muted in how the colors apply, but that's what I like about it, because you can build them up. Such a stunning palette. I've used this in several videos. If you're interested, you can go back and check them out. I'm really excited to play with this because these two blues here, this deep navy blue with this baby blue together, look really beautiful with a little bit of the pink in the crease, which is not an expected look, but it looks really nice together. Alright, this one is more of a palette that I could use with anything. This is the KVD Alchemist holographic palette. It cracks me up that it's called holographic when it's actually iridescent. These do not reflect rainbows, they reflect a single color. But regardless, this is the 4-pan iridescent eyeshadow palette, so each of these has a different reflect, and you can use them on the eyes or you can use them as cheek highlighters or whatever. I can mix this in with other makeup looks and have fun with it. So that one's more of an easy palette to work with this winter. Plus it does scream winter because it's highly reflective that way. Told you it's a lot. Next is this sleek palette called Vintage Romance. I really enjoy this palette because it's got pinks and purples and some golds too. I've created some beautiful makeup looks with it. It's kind of a basic palette in that sense, but if you want to dip your toe into color, they are pigmented, you can build them up and they're not as intense to work with. So if you're afraid of the color, you can try something out like that. I recommend it. I don't know if that specific palette is made anymore, but it is a nice one. Are you getting tired yet? I know my voice is getting tired. I need something to drink. I've been sitting here so long, the ice melted in my soda. This is Poppy Zocdoc, by the way. Zocdoc is like their version of Dr. Pepper. Next is Juvia's Place Wahala 2. Oh my gosh, look at all those jewel tones and the glitters and sparkles. While this isn't like winter specific, I feel like a lot of these tones are going to be really pretty this winter, and I just want to play with some colors that I haven't played with in a long time or just haven't played with at all. The limits are endless with this palette. The only thing I don't like necessarily is that there are a lot of these purple and blue tones that are kind of repetitious, so I don't know. That's not the point. I'm not giving a review of this palette. I just want to say how excited I am to play with this because I have not gotten a chance to play with that much, and yeah. This is a set of 4 palettes, and it's the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill collection, the Vault collection more specifically. I went to Vegas around the time this was launched, and she was there at a launch party. I didn't get to meet her. My sister and I arrived in Vegas a little bit later in the day, so we missed the meetup, which is totally fine. I did go to the hotel and I picked up my palettes. I did a whole video on that. If you're interested, go check that out. They did a recall or something and they had me send back the old ones and they sent me a new set, and I have not used these new sets except maybe once or twice. I will say Jaclyn does an amazing job building out color stories. This green and blue one is stunning. I love that color story so much. The least favorite palette in that collection though, because the eyeshadows are crappy. This one is also beautiful, and this one is very much a winter palette because of all the berry tones and purples and things. This one, which is more of like a fall grungy tone palette, but we'll see if I get any use out of that. I do like that olive green. And then this warm tone palette. Again, this one's not necessarily a winter palette, but I might dip into it for some of these, which will work for winter. And I've had these for so long and I just need to get some use out of them. And I don't necessarily want to declutter these because I love those color stories so much. It just, Morphe is, you know, hit or miss in a lot of ways. These last 4 palettes are rollovers from fall, so I'm not going to go deep into detail. I have the Rockers and Reelers one from MAC. Metallics, I feel like that's good for winter, especially around New Year's. I have another Morphe palette. This one is the 12P, which is the 12 matte bright colors. I feel like this is a good palette for me to use for when I need those tones. If I need a matte red, matte yellow, whatever, they're decent quality. This one is an all matte palette from e.l.f. called the Jewel Pop Matte for Matte. A lot of tones in here that are really nice for whatever purpose I need. This one is an all around just a really good palette to have on hand if I'm traveling or I'm doing certain things. I need a neutral brown, and this one is like all browns and grays and blacks, so perfect neutrals. It's the Viseart neutral matte palette. And I also have this Dream Big palette from Tarte. This is my travel palette because it's just got a nice full makeup look in here. So I've got mattes and shimmers and depth and also eyebrow color. Most of the time when I travel, I'm not doing my makeup to the 10s. I'm not trying to look like full glam or anything. But if I am going to an event, then I might travel with a little bit more, like more shimmery stuff or something that really adds something special to my makeup look. Oh, and I'm also keeping this out, even though this is technically like a full face palette. This is in the palm of your hand. The reason I'm keeping this out is because I've been using this blush here with the Mary Luminizer highlighter. Those have been my go-to for my face, and that's what I'm wearing today. I just love the Mary Luminizer highlighter these days. It is so pretty. It creates such a gorgeous glow, and I've been doing Vlogmas on my Emily's personal channel, so go check it out. It's in short form. It's less than 3 minutes long each day. But anyway, I was editing one of my shorts for Vlogmas and I kept looking at my makeup like, oh my gosh, that looks so pretty, because the glow was just, the highlighter just kept catching like the street lights or whatever, and I was just like, oh, that's so pretty. I need to wear that more, so I'm really excited about that. And this is great for travel as well. Looking at all the makeup here, I'm just like, girl, there's so much. I only have 2 eyeballs. I only have 1 face, and winter's 3 months. I don't even know how many palettes are here. If you want to stop and go back and count them all and leave a comment and let me know, you'd be my bestie forever. Anyway, let me know if there's any specific palette you want to see me do a makeup look on. I have a lot of videos that will be coming up soon. I'm finally getting back into filming. I know I keep saying that. I swear, mental health has just been a struggle for me lately. I'm probably going to film a video on mental health for my Emily's channel pretty soon, because I feel like it's something we need to talk about. A lot of stuff happens off camera that I do not talk about at all. Or if I talk about it, it's usually in jest or it's pretty lighthearted because I don't want to get too in the trenches with sad, soppy stories. With me getting injured a few months ago, it's been hell in a lot of ways to try to recover, and I'm going to be in recovery for several months with physical therapy, learning how to walk again, walk properly again, let me rephrase that. Anyway, the thing about this all in me just kind of trying to re-inspire myself to use what I have is not because I can't afford to buy new makeup, because that is a big contributor, but also just trying to appreciate the things we already have, taking inventory of the things that bring us joy, and you know, looking at a palette like the Dominique one, not something I would just reach for, but I look at it and I'm like, you know, that there's so many options to play with this. And color and doing my makeup just makes me so happy, and I'm trying to get myself back into that mindset of just doing it. And it's less overwhelming to play with makeup when I see things that I've set aside that I want to be more intentional with. Anyway, I'm sorry if this is rambly, and if you made it this far in this video, leave a special emoji. What should you leave? Purple hearts. If you've made it this far, leave a purple heart in the comments, because that lets me know if maybe I should make these videos shorter or whatever. Just let me know all your opinions, because I would love to have a chat with you in the comments. Stay happy and healthy and have an awesome rest of your day. Stay electric as always. Mwah. Bye!